What's up everybody, we're back with another raid guide, and today we're taking a look at Abyssal Commander Sivara on Mythic difficulty. I'll be going over most of the mechanics, how to deal with them, and our overall tactic for this fight. For this encounter we used 2 tanks, 5 healers and 13 DPS. With that said, let's start off with the main mechanic, which is the chimeric marks. The new thing on Mythic is that it will keep stacking throughout the fight. Even if you don't get hit by anything, your mark will still ramp up. Otherwise, the fight plays out roughly the same as on Heroic, just that mechanics actually matter. Due to everything hurting a lot more, the stacks, unstable mixture, etc., you just want to manage your stacks and to avoid getting more stacks than necessary. Assign one side of the room for frost marks and one for toxic brands. We place the toxic side where the entrance to Sivara's platform is and the frost marks on the opposite side of that. So on pull, when everyone gets their mark, toxic brands stay and frost marks jog on over to their side. This is just to minimize movement for toxic peeps who wants to stand still as much as possible. You have a grace period of a few seconds when the encounter starts where you can run over players with the opposite mark without triggering unstable mixture, so on pull, check your mark and position yourself accordingly. Due to ever-increasing stacks on your marks, you want to set up a rotation for resetting the stacks so they don't get out of hand. And so that 10 people don't reset at the same time. We just had our raid leader call out people with high stacks to reset, usually around 5 or 6, just to keep it a bit more controlled. Any player targeted by overflow needs to move out a bit, preferably to the edge of the room so you don't use up too much space. And players without overflow can and should run to players with overflow if they have the same mark to help split the damage. You probably only need 1 or 2 players depending on gear. Just make sure to move as soon as it goes off to avoid taking stacks from the pool that spawns. And when the boss reaches 100 energy, she will use Overwhelming Barrage. Simply position yourself so you can move between the bolts. One side of the boss will be toxic and the other frost. Try to position yourself on whichever side has your element on and try to avoid all the bolts. If you're on the side with your element on and you fail at dodging, you'll just get an extra stack instead of unstable mixture. However, you should aim to just dodge them all, which gets easier the further away from the boss you are. So even if you're melee, take a few steps back and make sure to dodge it. When a player gets targeted by frost shock bolts, they need to move away from the raid. The bolt will always be the opposite element of the player it targets, so it will trigger unstable mixture, unless another player soaks it for you. To do this, simply move in between the boss and the bolt targeted player, or just let the targeted player take it and heal through the unstable mixture. Just make sure someone runs over and clicks the spear so the player can rejoin the fight. When the boss is about to cast Inversion, you want to pre-spread a bit so you don't trigger a massive unstable mixture. If you get rooted, that means your mark has changed to be ready to move on over to the other side. For you tanks out there, you should swap at around 6 or 7 stacks to minimize the size of the pool they drop when the debuff expires. Just make sure you're far away from the raid when it expires. You will drop your tank debuff during Overwhelming Barrage, so keep that in mind and move away from the boss during it. While we're on the subject of tanking, you can actually solo tank this without much of an issue. You can always reset the tank debuff during Overwhelming Barrage, and it's very easy to solo all of the crushing reverbs. We didn't do this on our kill, mainly because we weren't sure if it worked, but we will solo tank it on reclears. I mean, it frees up an extra DPS slot, so why not? Other than that, pop Bloodlust on pull and nuke away. And that's about it for this fight. Just keep track of your stacks, avoid getting more stacks, and help players with overflow and people pinned by her spear. Unless you're trying to beat them, that is. If you want more in-depth info about a certain part of the fight, like tanking, healing cooldowns, or whatever, just hit me up on Facebook or become a Patreon and you will get access to my Discord where you can get all my weak auras, healing cooldowns, notes, etc. And it's the fastest way to get a hold of me. On that note, I also want to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreons. Thank you all for the support, it really means a lot. And with that said, if you like this video, hit that subscribe button, leave me a like and ring that notification bell. Thank you all so much for watching and I will see you next time.